What's going on, guys? Justice League. A lot of info dropped this week. Details, changes, surprises. We're gonna unpack a lot of that stuff right here, right now. And we got a couple of awesome comic book aficionados to talk about it with. First, he's an old friend of the show. He's a writer for DC Comics. He writes Batwoman, Wonder Woman 77. Welcome back, Marc Andreyko.
Thank you for having me, Hal.
And he is the co-host of Superhero News. He also does graphics for Screen Junkies, a friend of the family, Adam Hlavac. Before we get into all of this news, I want to go back a month and a half or so and ask about Geoff Johns, co-head of DC Films. Mm-hmm. One of the cool things about Geoff Johns, he is a true dyed-in-the-wool comic book guy.
Oh,
right?
yeah, no, he's got DC in his DNA. I mean, he loves these characters. Jeff comes from a place of positivity and, and like sort of that idealized what DC is. DC, used to be known in the comic books as the bright version of the Marvel Universe. And in film, they flip-flopped.
I think the great thing about Geoff Johns is Rebirth, to me, just from reading it, from a lot of conversations I've had with people, it's kind of DC's apology from where the comics kind of went in the New 52. And Rebirth is kind of bringing it back to, like you were saying, the lightness, the inspiration, which DC has always been. So I think that's so key, and that's something that we've seen. It's completely been seen in The Flash.
Mentioning The Flash, there are wonderful light moments throughout the TV show, and it seems like Ezra Miller's Flash is going to bring some of that lightness into the DC cinematic.
I can't wait to see Ezra Miller's interpretation. The scenes they've described from the press that got to go to the Justice League movie, it sounds like he's going to be the Spider-Man of the Justice League, the guy that's making the quips. And there's a scene where I guess Bruce Wayne shows up at Barry Allen's house and says basically, look at this video, I know who you are. And he's like, I'm not that. And then Bruce Wayne throws a batarang and it becomes slow and Flash catches it.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait a minute, you're Batman? And I guess the last line that the Flash has is, can I keep this?
Yeah.
And that right there sums up a complete sea change from some of the stuff that we were used to from the Nolan Dark Knight and that sort of thing.
One of the big announcements is that Justice League is no longer going to be 2 movies. It's going to be 1 movie. Talk to me about that decision, you guys.
Well, that's like the Avengers movie was going to be 2 movies, Infinity Watch. I think when they say they're only doing 1 Justice League movie, there's so many ways to interpret that. Zack Snyder's wife said this is just the one. That could mean just for them, and they're going to move on. That doesn't mean DC's not going to do another Justice League movie. But by doing self-contained movies, I think it makes it more palatable to the average person on the street.
I'm sure they're probably just going to wait and see how this movie does. They really want to focus on this first story. And then if it's very successful, sure, maybe if people really engage with it, then they'll bring them on again to the sequel.
And we still have Flash, Wonder Woman,
Aquaman.
and I think an Aquaman will all be coming out before the sequel to the Justice League.
We got a lot of plot details about Justice League. Batman and Wonder Woman recruiting metahumans. Just give us a quick description. What is a metahuman?
It's a superhero. For a couple of years, Marvel and DC had tried to own the trademark to the word superhero. So metahuman was a term that was in use when there was the debate over the trademark.
Yeah, it's one of those words that it really just means that these are people who have abilities. That's all.
So a lot of people were anticipating that Darkseid would be the big bad in this movie. But it turns out it's going to be Steppenwolf. What do we know about Steppenwolf? What can you tell us a little bit about this character?
Steppenwolf's a New Gods character. They were created by Jack Kirby when he left Marvel in the late 60s, early 70s and went over to DC. He's basically Darkseid's general. He runs Darkseid's army forces and the parademons and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, that was the delete scene. It came out, I think, like 2 days after the movie premiered, and it's basically Lex Luthor interacting with this holographic form that they haven't, I don't know if they've necessarily have 100% said that is Steppenwolf, but it looks a lot like Steppenwolf.
The silhouette is Steppenwolf.
Exactly.
Sure.
So that's going to be interesting. And I don't really think that Darkseid is the character that you start a Justice League movie with. I think you build to that. Steppenwolf is a great stepping stone. He's also Darkseid's uncle, and he leads the entire army of Apocalypse. So I think
there's a whole Shakespearean thing to the way Kirby set up the new gods.
Follow-up question. The dream sequence in Batman v Superman, tell me a little bit more about that. Because I know for a lot of the uninitiated, that was a bit of a confusing scene.
In that dream sequence, which might actually be a flash to the future, Bruce sees an Omega symbol burnt into the ground. That's Darkseid's symbol. He shoots these things called Omega beams from his eyes. The parademons, those flying guys, those are Darkseid's army. They're the mutant bug humanoid creatures. Yeah. Those are his stock. Those are his stormtroopers.
Why weren't you sitting next to me telling me this while the movie was going on?
Because I was enjoying the movie by myself.
All right.
If you're confused at all about mother boxes and Darkseid and Apocalypse and the whole concept of what's happening in this movie, they said that in the beginning. We're going to get a little bit of a history lesson as to where the mother boxes come from, possibly who Steppenwolf and Darkseid are to some extent, and how these mother boxes got into the hands of the Atlanteans, the Amazons. That will hopefully help clear up a lot of questions people might have or confusion as to kind of what's happening, why the Easter eggs in Batman vs. Superman are actually Easter eggs.
Do me a favor, simply explain to our viewers what a mother box is.
A mother box is essentially this miniature supercomputer that can create boom tubes, which allows characters like Darkseid to travel between Apokolips and Earth, and they also have like all kinds of different detection abilities and stuff like that.
Okay, I want to ask about this big info release and how they've been really transparent with this process. Now, Batman v Superman, somewhat of a divisive film. You have people that loved it, and you have people that thought it was, not the greatest effort. It seems like they invited a lot of their harshest critics for this set visit.
Well, I think it's brave of them. I think the fact that Warner Brothers is investing billions of dollars into the cinematic universe and saying, look, maybe you're right, maybe there was stuff that wasn't great about the movie, and taking the people, they're not the people that love their movies. They didn't invite me to the set. They're inviting these people that were the most critical and showing them, look, we listened to you. And I think that in the long run is going to be super beneficial for DC, because it means that they pay attention to the fans and value the fans' opinions.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to really sell, hopefully, a positive image of this movie to us now. That way it doesn't cause such an uphill battle for movies like Suicide Squad. I think it's also worth mentioning that, people always say that they shouldn't try to make these DC movies so kid-friendly. They're not for kids now. They should make it for adults. I feel like they're not necessarily kids' movies, but you can still include kids in these movies. Nobody wants a rated G Justice League movie, obviously, but it should be accessible to everybody.
Does it seem like Zack Snyder's role has changed, or maybe are they keeping him on a shorter leash? What do you think?
I honestly, I give Zack Snyder credit for sticking around. Zack Snyder admits that there was so much blowback and it kind of took him off guard, but he's still sticking with it. I feel like that's pretty commendable.
You gotta give him a lot of credit for sticking around to get millions of dollars.
Well, I mean, just to have that much backlash and to have to sit there and now figure out, okay, how do we rework this so everybody loves it?
He is getting a lot of hate, and
I don't know.
And probably too much. Okay, let me pull back and ask sort of a larger question about the world here. With the promotion of Geoff Johns, with the seemingly lightening of the tone, and then making Justice League a single film instead of what was going to be a two-parter, do we feel that is a little bit of a knee-jerk course correction by them going by the critical reaction of Batman v Superman, or is it just the natural evolution of things?
I don't think when you're dealing with $300 million movies, there's any knee-jerk reactions. I think a lot of this stuff is, like with the reshoots for the Suicide Squad, all these big budget movies do tons of reshoots months before they open, because they test them, they see what works and what doesn't. Now it just becomes press, and as the internet goes, you say something and then it becomes fact retroactively. So I think they took into account the reaction. Absolutely, they'd be foolish not to.
I think at some point it was inevitable that this DC universe was going to shift. Chris Terrio talked about it months ago, that just step by step they're going to move towards a lighter tone. So I think that it was a long-term game plan, but I think now they really felt like they had to hit the gas a little sooner than they expected, maybe.
And this kind of info dump we've gotten in the past week or so, this is just the beginning, because at Comic-Con we're going to get to see some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, I would imagine the scenes that they showed the press here that we'll see in Hall H.
Okay, one last question. How scary are those J.K. Simmons pictures at the gun show?
I thought he was playing Commissioner Gordon, but he looks like Bane in those pictures. It's like,
who needs Batman in this universe now?
I thought those were the best Photoshop pictures I've ever seen. I still don't believe that's his head on someone else's body.
I hear he looks like he's pulled right out of the animated series. So it's like, between seeing how ripped he is and hearing that, I'm like, I'm in.
So guys, what do you think about all this news? What are you most excited about? What are you a little bit nervous about? Let us know in the comments section. We want to know what you think. I got to thank a couple of awesome guests. Marc Andreyko, Adam Hlavac. Thanks for being here, fellas, and breaking it down, dropping some knowledge on us.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching. I'm Hal Rudnick. Hit me up on Twitter. Bye-bye.
I don't often cry in movies. That montage absolutely killed me.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie wasn't as good as the first 10 minutes. So I'm gonna go with Ratatouille.
We're gonna have to go into hiding after this.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's Pixar's fault. They made too many good movies.